One of the clearest signs that a man truly loves an older woman is surprisingly simple. He stops talking about age altogether. In the beginning, society may focus on the age gap. Friends may joke about it. People may question it. Even he may notice it at first. But once emotional connection becomes real, the number slowly loses its importance because genuine love always focuses more on energy than appearance, more on peace than public opinion, and more on connection than social expectations. Because when a man is deeply emotionally attached, he stops seeing an older woman. He starts seeing the woman who makes him feel understood. And that changes everything. See, many people assume relationships with age gaps are only based on attraction, curiosity, or temporary excitement. But temporary attraction fades quickly when emotional depth is missing. Real connection survives because of something much deeper, emotional compatibility. And when a man experiences genuine emotional peace with an older woman, age becomes less relevant than the way she makes him feel. That's why one of the strongest signs of real love is when he no longer constantly references the age difference. He stops making comparisons, stops acting insecure about public opinions, stops needing to justify the relationship every moment. Because emotionally, he is no longer focused on the number. He's focused on the connection, on the conversations that feel effortless, on the calmness he experiences around her, on the emotional maturity that feels different from the chaos he may have experienced before. And many men are deeply affected by that emotional difference. An older woman often carries herself with more confidence, emotional balance, patience, and self-awareness. She usually knows who she is. She is less interested in games, confusion, or constant emotional drama. And for many men, that energy feels peaceful in a world that often feels emotionally exhausting. That peace becomes addictive because real emotional connection is not built through constant excitement alone. It's built through safety, through understanding, through being able to fully relax around someone without feeling judged, pressured, or emotionally manipulated. And when a man finds that kind of emotional environment, outside opinions slowly lose power over him. People may still talk. Society may still judge. But emotionally, he already knows what the relationship means to him. And that is why his language changes. Instead of saying things like, "You're older than me," he starts saying things like, "I love talking to you. I feel different around you," or "You bring peace into my life." Because emotionally mature love naturally shifts, focus away from surface-level labels and toward emotional experience. He starts admiring qualities that have nothing to do with age. Your wisdom, your calmness, your emotional strength, the way you handle life, the way you communicate, the way you understand people. And without realizing it, he becomes emotionally attached to the depth of who you are instead of the number attached to your age. That's when love becomes real, because temporary attraction notices appearance first. But emotional connection notices energy. It notices how someone makes life feel. And when a man truly falls in love with an older woman, the relationship stops being about the age gap and starts becoming about emotional fulfillment. At that point, age becomes background noise compared to the emotional peace he feels in your presence. And when a man reaches that level of connection, he no longer sees the years between you. He only sees the bond that keeps pulling him closer. One of the deepest things a man can say to a woman is not "you're beautiful" or "you're attractive." It's "I feel peace with you." Because attraction may capture attention for a moment, but peace is what makes someone emotionally stay. And when a man says he feels calm, understood, emotionally safe, or mentally relaxed around an older woman, those words often reveal something much deeper than temporary desire. They reveal emotional attachment. See, many men spend years surrounded by emotional pressure, confusion, games, expectations, and relationships that feel unstable. Constant arguments, mixed signals, emotional unpredictability. And over time, that kind of emotional chaos becomes exhausting. That's why when a man encounters a woman whose energy feels peaceful instead of draining, it affects him deeply. Because peace feels rare, An older woman often brings a different emotional energy into a relationship. She is usually more grounded within herself, more patient, more emotionally mature, less interested in proving herself constantly. She communicates with more clarity, carries herself with more confidence, and reacts with more emotional balance. And for a man who has experienced emotional inconsistency in the past, that calmness feels almost addictive. Not because she is trying to control him, but because her presence allows him to emotionally breathe. That's why men who genuinely love older women often talk about how they feel around them instead of only how they look. They say things like, "I can relax with you, I feel understood, you calm my mind," or "I don't have to pretend around you." Those words matter because they reveal emotional safety. And emotional safety creates deep attachment because everyone wants a place where they can remove the emotional armor they wear around the world. A place where they don't feel judged for their weaknesses, insecurities, fears, or emotions. And when a man finds a woman who creates that kind of emotional comfort naturally, the connection becomes difficult to replace, especially in today's world, where many relationships are built around appearances, social validation, or emotional games. Real peace stands out because it feels genuine. And older women often provide that authenticity without even trying. They usually know who they are already. They are less likely to seek constant validation or emotional drama because life has taught them deeper lessons about relationships, pain, and emotional growth. And that emotional maturity changes the atmosphere of the relationship completely. Instead of chaos, there is calmness. Instead of pressure, there is understanding. Instead of emotional confusion, there is clarity. And that kind of connection reaches a man emotionally in ways physical attraction alone never can, because eventually beauty becomes familiar, excitement settles down. But emotional peace becomes more valuable over time. It becomes the thing a man starts craving after stressful days, difficult moments, or emotional exhaustion from the outside world. That's when love deepens beyond surface attraction. Because now he is not only emotionally drawn to your appearance, he is emotionally attached to the feeling your presence creates inside him. The comfort, the stability, the calmness, the emotional safety he experiences when he is with you. And once someone becomes emotionally attached to peace, they rarely forget the person who gave it to them. Because attraction may make a man look at you, but emotional peace is what makes him stay close to your heart long after the excitement settles. One of the strongest signs that a man truly loves an older woman is the way he admires her strength and emotional maturity. Not just her beauty, not just her appearance, but the way she carries herself through life, the calmness in her energy, the confidence in her decisions, the emotional balance in the way she handles situations. Because real love goes deeper than attraction. It begins when admiration enters the connection. And emotional maturity creates a kind of admiration many men rarely experience. See, a lot of relationships today are built around emotional reactions, games, confusion, insecurity, and constant validation seeking. People often struggle to communicate honestly. Small misunderstandings become dramatic conflicts. Ego becomes louder than understanding, and over time, that emotional chaos becomes exhausting. That's why when a man meets a woman who feels emotionally grounded, it impacts him deeply. An older woman often understands herself differently because life has shaped her through experience. She has faced pain, disappointment, growth, healing, and emotional lessons that created wisdom inside her. She usually does not panic over every little issue. She does not seek attention through drama. She does not need constant reassurance to feel valuable. And that emotional stability feels powerful to a man who is tired of emotional inconsistency because maturity creates peace. And peace creates emotional attraction that lasts longer than temporary excitement. A man who truly loves an older woman begins admiring the way she thinks, the way she handles pressure, the way she communicates during difficult moments without losing herself emotionally. He notices that she doesn't react impulsively to every problem. Instead, she responds with patience, perspective, and emotional control. That energy feels rare, especially because emotional maturity creates emotional safety. A man starts feeling like he can be himself around her without constantly defending his emotions or walking on eggshells. He feels understood instead of judged, guided instead of controlled, supported instead of emotionally manipulated. And slowly, admiration turns into deep emotional attachment, because men may initially notice physical attraction, but emotional strength is what keeps respect alive. When a man respects a woman emotionally, the relationship begins operating on a much deeper level. He starts valuing her opinions, listening more carefully to her advice, trusting her perspective. Not because she dominates him, but because her emotional intelligence naturally earns respect. And this is where many people misunderstand relationships with older women. They assume the connection is only based on experience or physical attraction. But often, what truly pulls a man closer is the emotional maturity he feels around her, the confidence that doesn't need to prove itself loudly, the self-awareness that removes unnecessary drama, the emotional discipline that creates calmness during difficult moments. That kind of strength becomes unforgettable. Because in a world where so many people react emotionally without thinking, maturity stands out immediately. A woman who knows how to remain calm during chaos creates a completely different emotional experience. Her energy feels stable, safe, strong, and men naturally become attached to environments where they feel emotional peace. But perhaps the most attractive part of emotional maturity is authenticity. An older woman is often less interested in pretending to be someone she's not. She understands her value already. She knows what matters emotionally. And that self-awareness creates confidence that feels effortless instead of forced. And when a man falls in love with that kind of emotional depth, he stops admiring only what he sees on the outside. He begins admiring the strength, wisdom, and peace he feels every time he experiences your presence. One of the most powerful things a man can say to a woman is, "You understand me better than anyone." Because true emotional connection is not only about attraction, chemistry, or excitement, it's about feeling emotionally seen, feeling heard without constantly needing to explain yourself, feeling understood in a world where most people only listen to respond instead of truly listening to understand. And when a man says those words to an older woman, it often reveals a connection that has reached a much deeper emotional level. See, many men spend most of their lives hiding parts of themselves emotionally. Society teaches them to stay strong, suppress vulnerability, avoid emotional openness, and carry pressure silently. Over time, many become emotionally guarded because they rarely feel safe enough to express their fears, insecurities, stress, or emotional struggles honestly. That's why genuine understanding feels so powerful to them. And older women often create that emotional environment naturally, not because they are trying to fix anyone, but because emotional maturity changes the way a person listens, communicates, and responds. An older woman usually has more patience, more emotional awareness, more life experience. She understands that every emotion does not need judgment or immediate criticism. Sometimes people simply need to feel heard. And that changes everything in a relationship. Because when a man feels deeply understood, emotional walls begin to fall. He starts opening up more naturally. He talks more honestly about his thoughts, goals, fears, and emotions because he no longer feels emotionally unsafe. He stops pretending to be perfect, stops performing strength every second, stops hiding the parts of himself he believes others may not understand. That emotional comfort creates deep attachment because understanding is rare. Many people hear words, but very few truly understand emotions behind those words. And when someone consistently makes you feel emotionally accepted without pressure, it creates a bond that feels difficult to replace. That's why men who genuinely love older women often express appreciation for the emotional connection more than superficial things. They say things like, "You just get me. I can talk to you about anything," or "You understand me in ways nobody else does." Those phrases may sound simple on the surface, but emotionally they reveal trust, safety, and emotional intimacy. And emotional intimacy is what transforms attraction into real love. Because eventually, physical beauty alone is not enough to sustain deep emotional connection. Life becomes difficult. Stress appears. Personal struggles happen. And during those moments, people emotionally attach themselves to those who bring understanding instead of judgment. Older women often provide that emotional stability because they no longer approach relationships from insecurity or emotional games. They communicate with more patience. They understand human emotions more deeply through life experience. And that wisdom creates a relationship atmosphere where a man feels emotionally accepted instead of constantly tested. That acceptance becomes addictive, not because she allows bad behavior, but because she creates emotional peace, a place where he feels safe enough to be vulnerable without fear of losing respect. And for many men, that kind of emotional safety is something they rarely experience elsewhere, because real love grows strongest where understanding exists, not constant perfection, not endless excitement. Understanding, the ability to feel emotionally connected without pretending to be someone else. And when a man reaches the point where he genuinely feels more emotionally understood by you than by anyone else in his life, the relationship stops being about age, appearances, or outside opinions. It becomes about the rare emotional connection he never wants to lose. One of the clearest signs that a man truly loves an older woman is the way he starts talking about the future naturally. Not because he feels forced to, not because he is trying to impress her, but because real emotional connection automatically makes people imagine permanence. When someone deeply touches your heart, your mind naturally begins including them in the life you see ahead of you. And that shift says everything. See, when a relationship is temporary in someone's mind, their language reflects it. Conversations stay surface level. Plans remain short term. They avoid emotional commitment, avoid deeper discussions, and keep the connection emotionally limited. But when a man becomes emotionally serious, his words begin changing without him even realizing it. He starts saying things like, "We should go there someday. I can see us doing that together," or "You'd love this place." Small phrases, but emotionally powerful because they reveal that he no longer sees you as a passing moment in his life. He sees you as part of his future experiences. And with older women, this becomes even more meaningful because many men initially enter these relationships without fully understanding how deeply emotionally attached they may become. At first, they may notice attraction, confidence, or maturity. But as the emotional connection deepens, something shifts inside them. They begin valuing the peace, understanding, and emotional stability the relationship gives them. And once that emotional attachment becomes strong enough, fear of losing it naturally appears. That's when future thinking begins, because people instinctively try to hold on to environments that make them feel emotionally fulfilled. A man who feels emotionally safe, respected, understood, and peaceful around an older woman often begins imagining how his life would feel long-term with her presence still in it. And this is where his behavior changes. He becomes more intentional, more emotionally consistent. He asks deeper questions about your goals, your dreams, your life plans. He wants to know how you see the future because he is secretly trying to understand whether his future can exist beside yours. That emotional seriousness is important because men who are only emotionally curious usually avoid long-term emotional conversations. But a man who genuinely loves begins investing emotionally into tomorrow. He thinks beyond the excitement of the moment, beyond physical attraction, beyond temporary emotions. He starts building emotional continuity. And one reason this happens so naturally with older women is because emotional maturity often creates relationship stability. An older woman usually approaches love with more honesty, clarity, and self-awareness. She understands herself better. She communicates differently. She values emotional depth over games. And for a man who has experienced emotionally chaotic relationships before, That stability feels incredibly valuable. It feels safe enough to imagine a future inside. Because real commitment is not built only on attraction. It's built on emotional trust, on feeling like life becomes more peaceful, more meaningful, and more emotionally balanced with someone beside you. And when a man experiences that kind of emotional environment consistently, long-term thinking becomes natural instead of forced. He starts imagining holidays together, shared routines, future memories, life experiences. Even small everyday moments become emotionally important because he no longer sees the relationship as temporary entertainment. He sees emotional home. And that emotional shift matters more than any romantic speech. Because when someone genuinely loves you, they stop speaking only about today. Their words begin carrying traces of tomorrow without effort. Their actions become more intentional because emotionally they are no longer preparing for an ending. They are quietly hoping the connection lasts. And when a man naturally begins including you in the future he sees for himself, it usually means your presence has already become part of the life he does not want to imagine losing. At the end of the day, the real reason a man stays deeply emotionally attached to an older woman is rarely just about age. Age may attract attention in the beginning. Curiosity may create the first spark. But lasting emotional connection is built on something much deeper. Emotional depth, peace, authenticity, confidence, and the feeling that he can truly be himself without fear, because temporary attraction can happen with anyone. But emotional safety is rare, and that is what many older women naturally bring into relationships. A different kind of energy, a calmer presence, less emotional chaos, less pressure to pretend, more understanding, more patience, more emotional balance. And for many men, that emotional atmosphere becomes far more meaningful than the surface level excitement most people chase, because eventually everyone becomes tired of performing, tired of emotional games, tired of pretending to be perfect, tired of relationships built only around appearances, ego, or temporary validation. Deep down, most people are searching for a place where they can emotionally breathe. A place where they feel accepted instead of constantly judged. And emotional depth creates that feeling. An older woman often understands herself differently because life has already taught her important emotional lessons. She has experienced heartbreak, healing, disappointment, growth, and self-discovery. She usually no longer approaches relationships from desperation or insecurity because she understands her own value already. That confidence changes the relationship completely, because confidence rooted in self-awareness feels peaceful instead of attention-seeking. It feels grounded instead of emotionally chaotic. And when a man experiences that energy consistently, he starts becoming emotionally attached not only to the woman herself, but to the emotional peace he feels around her. That is why so many men describe relationships with older women differently. They talk about feeling calmer, more understood, more emotionally connected, more accepted. They often feel less pressure to constantly prove themselves because the relationship operates from emotional maturity instead of emotional games. And authenticity plays a huge role in this. Older women are often more comfortable being themselves. They are less interested in pretending, impressing, or chasing validation because life experience has already shown them what truly matters emotionally. That authenticity creates trust because people naturally relax around someone who feels emotionally genuine. And men remember that feeling deeply because emotional depth changes attraction into attachment. It creates conversations that feel meaningful instead of shallow. It creates connection that survives beyond physical appearance. It creates moments where someone feels emotionally seen in ways they may never have experienced before. And once someone experiences that level of emotional connection, it becomes difficult to replace because beauty can capture attention, but emotional peace captures the heart. That's why a man who truly loves an older woman stops focusing on public opinions, labels, or the age gap itself. Emotionally, he already knows what matters most to him. He knows how he feels around her. He knows the calmness she brings into his life. He knows the emotional honesty, wisdom, and maturity he experiences with her. And those things become more valuable over time, not less, because real love is not sustained by excitement alone. It survives through emotional understanding, emotional safety, trust, and peace, through feeling accepted exactly as you are, through knowing someone truly sees you beneath the surface, and perhaps that is the deepest truth of all. A man may initially notice an older woman because of curiosity, but he stays because emotional depth gives him something many people spend their entire lives searching for, a connection that feels real, peaceful, and impossible to easily replace.